Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really getting into something significant. Operation Sindoor. We've gathered quite a bit of material articles, some detailed research, official statements to give you a clear picture of this, well, highly targeted military operation by India.
Yeah, and the idea here isn't just, rehashing the news headlines. It's more about giving you the background, the specifics behind what was clearly a very precise, very strategic response to a major terror attack. We're looking directly at the source info.
Right, so by the end of this, you'll have a solid, informed take on what triggered it,
Mm-hmm.
how exactly it was carried out, and what happened immediately afterwards. Kind of shortcut to getting up to speed. Okay, let's get started then. To really understand Operation Sindoor, we first need to set the stage. We need to look at what led directly to it.
Exactly.
And that takes us to the Pahalgam terror attack.
That's the starting point. The Pahalgam attack happened April 22nd, 2025. It was in Jammu and Kashmir, and it was truly tragic. 26 civilians lost their lives. Yeah. 25 Indians and 1 Nepali tourist. Responsibility was claimed pretty quickly by the Resistance Front, TRF they're called, and that group has explicit links to Lashkar-e-Taiba, Leti. India's official stance was that Pakistan provided support for the attack.
And that high civilian number, 26 people, it really underscores the severity, doesn't it? You can see why a response was considered necessary almost immediately. It wasn't just another incident, it was a major blow.
Absolutely. The impact was huge, and it created immense pressure for accountability.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting. India's response was swift, it was described as precise. What exactly was Operation Sindoor?
Right. So Operation Sindoor was launched not long after, on May 7th, 2025. It wasn't just one branch of the military. It was coordinated. We're talking Indian Army, Navy, and critically, the Indian Air Force.
A joint operation, then?
Very much so. The method involved a series of precision air and missile strikes. They targeted 9 specific sites, all linked to terror groups.
9 sites.
And the primary objective, according to India's Ministry of Defense, and this wording is important, was focused, measured, and non-escalatory. The aim was to hit Jaish-e-Mohammed, JEM, and Lashkar-e-Taiba infrastructure. Basically, dismantle their ability to operate.
Focused, measured, non-escalatory. That's quite specific language.
It is, and it points to the nature of the operation. They were careful to state that the strikes deliberately avoided hitting any Pakistani military installations. The targets were chosen based on, supposedly, very precise intelligence to minimize civilian casualties. And another key detail, the strikes were launched from within Indian territory.
Okay, that's crucial. No border crossing in that sense. And the duration you mentioned, I saw reports it was incredibly short.
Astonishingly short, yeah. The entire operation, start to finish, was about 23 minutes.
Wow, 23 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
For a coordinated strike involving multiple forces, that speaks volumes about readiness, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests extremely good real-time intelligence, tight integration between the forces, and having assets ready to go almost instantly. You don't achieve that kind of speed without meticulous planning and, frankly, flawless execution. Left very little time for any kind of reaction.
Okay, let's dig into those targets. 9 specific sites. What were they?
This is where the specificity really stands out. It wasn't, just bombing a general area. They had distinct locations. And they fall into 2 groups. 4 locations were inside Pakistan proper.
Okay.
These were Markaz Subhanallah in Bahalpur, identified as the Jaish-e-Mohammed headquarters. Then Markaz Taiba in Muradke, a Lashkar-e-Taiba base. Mamuna Joya in Sialkot, listed as a Hizbul Mujahideen camp. And Markaz al-Hadith in Barnala, described as an Leti-linked religious indoctrination center.
Headquarters, bases, camps, very specific functions.
Exactly. And then there were 5 more locations, these ones within Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, or PO.
Right, the region administered by Pakistan.
Yes. So, in Pak, the targets included Syedna Bilal Camp in Muzaffarabad, a GEM training center. Shwawai Nala Camp, also in Muzaffarabad and Leti Operations Unit. Makaz Rahil Shahid in Kotli, a Hizbul Mujahideen center. Markaz Abbas, also Kotli, identified as a GEM safe house. And finally, the Sarjal facility in Tara Kalan, used for weapons and IED storage.
Wow, that is granular. Down to safe houses and storage facilities. What does this level of detail tell you? About intelligence gathering, perhaps?
It suggests a huge leap in what they call actionable intelligence. Not just knowing something is there, but knowing exactly what it is and its function. It moves away from older styles of maybe broader strikes towards really surgical neutralization.
Yeah.
The idea is to cripple the operational capacity of these groups directly with minimal collateral effects. It's a much more, let's say, refined counterterrorism approach.
Okay, so they had the targets pinpointed.
Yeah.
Now let's talk tech. How do you hit those targets with such precision? What kind of hardware, what weapons were actually used?
Right, the tools are critical here. The Indian Air Force used some very modern, high-precision weapons, the kind designed specifically for accuracy and reducing unintended damage. The main aircraft mentioned was the Rafale jet,
The Rafales, okay.
and they were carrying specific munitions. One key weapon was the Scalp-P cruise missile. It's made by MBDA, a European company. These are long-range missiles launched from the air, known for hitting high-value, often hardened or fortified targets very accurately. You might recognize the name. They've been used elsewhere: Iraq, Libya, Syria, even Ukraine recently.
So proven technology. What else?
They also used hammer munitions. That stands for Highly Agile Modular Munition Extended Range, made by Safran in France. These are interesting. They're precision-guided bombs, but they're modular. They have multiple guidance options: GPS, infrared, laser. That makes them really good for hitting targets that might be moving or perhaps concealed, again, with very high accuracy.
Flexible guidance. Sounds useful for tricky targets.
Definitely. And one more category mentioned: loitering munitions, sometimes called kamikaze drones. These are basically unmanned aerial systems, drones, that can hang around an area, loiter, providing surveillance in real time. And then, when the target is confirmed, they can perform an autonomous strike. They're known for being harder to detect and relatively cost-effective for certain missions.
Rafales, Scalp-P missiles, hammer munitions, loitering drones. Quite an advanced toolkit. How do these specific weapons connect back to that description India used, measured, and non-escalatory?
Well, it's all about control and precision. By using weapons that have very small error margins that can discriminate between the target and its surroundings, you significantly reduce the risk of hitting the wrong thing, like avoiding civilian structures right next door or avoiding nearby military posts that weren't the target. Choosing these kinds of weapons is fundamental to backing up the claim that it was measured. It signals intent. Hit only the terrorists, not escalate into a wider conflict.
Right, the technology enables the strategy. So we've covered the trigger, the operation itself, the targets, the tech. What about the immediate aftermath? Beyond the strike zones, what were the sort of ripple effects, maybe things people felt more widely?
Ah, yes. The consequences were felt very quickly, especially in the air. Regional airspace was significantly affected. Srinagar Airport, for example, was completely shut down for a time. All commercial flights suspended.
Okay, major disruption there.
And it wasn't just Srinagar. Other airports in the north, Jammu, Amritsar, Leh, Chandigarh, Dharamshala, even Bikaner faced disruptions. Some closed temporarily, others had major delays.
That must have caused chaos for travelers.
Absolutely. You had numerous flights canceled outright, others diverted. Airspace restrictions were put in place, security protocols heightened everywhere. We saw specific airlines issuing advisories. Indigo told passengers to check flight statuses constantly. SpiceJet actually suspended operations entirely at several of those northern airports for a period: Dharamshala, Leh, Jammu, Srinagar, Amritsar. Air India also stopped flights from places like Pune and Amritsar temporarily.
And what about international carriers?
Yes, a big indicator was Qatar Airways. They publicly announced they were temporarily suspending flights to Pakistan because Pakistani airspace itself was closed or restricted.
So, a 23-minute military operation effectively grounded a significant portion of regional air travel.
Pretty much. It shows how interconnected things are and how quickly the effects of such an action can spread beyond the immediate military sphere, impacting ordinary civilian life and international movement.
It's a stark reminder. Now, looking at the bigger picture, is Operation Sindoor something totally new for India, or does it fit into a broader pattern of military actions?
That's a really good question. It definitely fits within a long and actually quite diverse history of Indian military operations. It's not an isolated incident in that sense. If you look back, you see operations for very different reasons. Early on, things like Operation Polo in 1948 for Hyderabad's integration, or Operation Vijay in 1961 for Goa's liberation. Foundational actions.
Right, nation-building type operations.
Exactly. Then you have international roles like peacekeeping in the Congo back in 61 or Operation Cactus in 88, thwarting that coup in the Maldives. And of course, lots of humanitarian and disaster relief work. Operation Rahat during the Uttarakhand floods in 2013, or evacuating people from Yemen in 2015. More recently, Operation Maitri after the Nepal earthquake. Operation Devi Shakti during the Afghanistan evacuations. Operation Ganga getting students out of Ukraine. And Operation Dost helping Turkey and Syria after their earthquake.
A very wide range indeed. Humanitarian, peacekeeping.
Right. But then you also have the more direct counterterrorism and border security operations, like Operation Sarp Vinash back in 2003 in J&K, Operation Black Tornado, the response to the 26/11 Mumbai attacks in 2008, and maybe the most direct precursor in style was Operation Bender, the Balakot airstrike in 2019. That was also an aerial response to a specific terror attack.
Okay, so Sindoor seems to follow that Balakot model in some ways, but with maybe even more emphasis on pinpoint targeting.
That seems to be the case, yes. It fits within this spectrum, showing a continued reliance on, or maybe refinement of, using air power for targeted counter-terror responses.
So wrapping this up,
Yeah.
we've unpacked the trigger of the Pahalgam attack. We've looked at Operation Sindoor itself, the swift, precise strikes on those 9 targets.
Yeah.
We touched on the advanced technology that made it possible, and the immediate, quite widespread impact on airspace.
Right. And thinking about all that, particularly the way India framed it, focused, measured, non-escalatory, it does leave you with a question to ponder.
What's that?
Well, think about it. What do these kinds of highly targeted military responses really signal about how strategies for fighting terrorism might be evolving? And maybe more importantly, how do countries balance the immediate need for security, for responding to attacks like Pahalgam, with the longer-term goal of maintaining broader regional stability? It's a tricky balance.
Definitely something to think about. How do you act decisively without sparking something much bigger? A complex issue, for sure. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Operation Sindoor. We hope this breakdown helps you make sense of the details. As always, we encourage you to keep digging, keep questioning, and stay informed.